I stepped through the interplanetary laser network to the new Halifax digital hub. My virtual body formed around my mind. I had never been before, but I was expected. The virtual form of Hayden Dart, one of my two assistants I had been assigned for my mission, stood waiting for me as soon as I arrived. He approached and thrust out his hand, a practice long abandoned on Earth, but still alive and well among the many colonies of Venus. "Ambassador Orissa?" his comparatively smooth Venusian voice inquired. Taking his hand, I confirmed his query with a nod and a smile, which seemed enough for him, turning on his heel and heading directly for the upload area. I was in no hurry and decided to stroll. The short stature of Venusian humans allowed me to see clearly over their heads, rarely exceeding 1.5 meters in height. I was closer to 1 meter taller than most, and apparently one of the tallest here. Though the hub is usually busy, people coming and going from many different virtual locations, there appeared to be some commotion around one of the arrival platforms. I continued to my destination, but the commotion had drawn my eye, glancing back several times before they were out of sight. The soft bluish stone of the hub's main chamber soon changed to a classical wood effect, and even gas lamps, though such virtual decorations are not uncommon. Hayden led me to a secured access door, beyond which was the android body I was to use during this negotiation. I interfaced with the door. It opened into a well-lit and eggshell-white room. As I stepped across the threshold, I slid into the waiting android form, the room containing a mirror and Hayden's physical form, though his was organic. The far wall was mirrored, allowing me to see the body they had produced. It looked exactly like my own organic body back on Earth, though its senses felt sharper and its limbs firmer, designed to survive the environment on Abyssia, the colony of the Venusian Kraken. Unlike New Halifax that floats atop the clouds, Abyssia floats kilometers lower, in the depths of the smouldering smoke that envelops the planet. My organic form could never survive there, and no diplomat wishes to communicate through a suit helmet, much as Hayden and Miss Balut will have to. As I had been admiring this body, Hayden had also slipped into his own, headed directly for the door, in what I was fast learning was his typical manner. I turned and followed, my stroll easily keeping up with his fast walk, as he led me through the corridors to a meeting lounge, large windows looking out over the colony on one side, and over the clouds of Venus on the other. My second assistant, a Miss Lola Balut, was waiting here. Shorter even than Hayden, but with a far better disposition. She half bounded over, and with a grin and wag of her tail, thrusted her hand out. "Lola! Lola Balut! Just call me Lola, okay? You must be Ambassador Orissa." The words spewed forth at a speed that made her difficult to follow. The Carnath are known for being gregarious sort, confirmed as I took her hand, and though tiny, she shook it with a firmness befitting a strong character. Hayden had already taken a seat, and his expression was one I recognized well. He had begun to study mission data, preparing for what was likely the most important job he has ever done. Lola, however, was still talking, explaining to me why we were here, rather than going directly to the shuttle and informing me that we had a couple of hours before we depart. Once I had selected a seat, I engaged the interface on the table and placed an order for some local cuisine and coffee, both soon delivered by a drone. Lola had selected a seat next to mine and was still chatting. My responses were few and far between, but appeared to be plenty for her. Just over 2 hours drifted by before Hayden quickly rose and informed us that the shuttle was safe to depart, before turning toward the doors and marching straight for the hangar. Lola sprang to her feet and began to walk with me as we made the short journey to the diplomatic hangar and the shuttle within. The shuttle was a common Venusian design. Soft pastel colours and organic aesthetics made the shuttle a thing of beauty. Settled on its flexible legs, with an inviting glow coming through the open ramp. Hayden was already aboard the shuttle by the time we arrived in the bay, though soon after we joined him in the comfortable lounge-like interior, the shuttle closing up and taking to the sky moments later. New Halifax floats on the clouds of Venus as though a ship on the sea, and though the shuttle could fly far above the clouds, it quickly dropped down to their surface and skimmed along just above it. The great mosaic hull of New Halifax fast fading into the distance. Venus's clouds are not made of water, they're made of carbon dioxide, smoke, the thick grey coating over the world, though the sky was blue, just like the skies of Earth. We skimmed over the clouds for 2 hours, covering more than 1,000 kilometres and numerous conversation topics with Lola, while Hayden sat in his own head, doubtless studying for the meeting. The Kraken of Venus enjoy their isolation, the 400 Kelvin temperatures and extreme atmospheric pressure, not to mention the acidic rain, all serving to support their isolation. But they had agreed to receive an ambassador from the United Nations of Sol, hopefully to talk treaties. We hardly noticed when the shuttle began to descend below the clouds, only realizing when the light of the sun was sufficiently obscured. Soon after our descent had begun, the clouds had gone from grey to black and surrounded the shuttle entirely, the windows useless now as the shuttle piloted itself on sensors. Conversation had faded away. Lola and I looked out at the blackness, waiting to see a sign of the Kraken city ahead. For more than an hour the view was darkness, our apprehension growing as we waited. Only Hayden was calm, still buried in virtual data. At last the darkness ahead began to change, deepening as though something was obscuring every trace of light, though we could make out no shapes. Suddenly, out of the darkness, the light of the shuttle illuminated a wall of stained, pitted metal, occasionally broken by ribs or trails of twisted plating, pushed together and buried into the surface. The shuttle was flying alongside the exterior of the city, now a blackish brown from ash and acid, though in places its original soft yellow colour could be seen. Ahead of us we could see a piece of rib falling away, the twisted metal detaching from the surface and beginning to drop. But then it began to turn and spiral, long metal tentacles stretching behind its body. It was a kraken, its path arcing close to us and its body turning as it came by, though we could see no eyes, just its dark and grotesque body, seemingly composed of torn and pitted shards of metal. After the close encounter, it spiraled away below us, quickly out of sight, but not out of mind. Another rib in the surface was suddenly clearer. It was not a feature of the hull, but a vast number of kraken, huddled together on the city's exterior. Our eyes trained on it, we could see small movements among it, even the occasional tentacle changing position. Each must contain thousands of them. The shuttle began to arc towards an opening in the city. Not a shuttle bay, but a hole, its edges tattered and scarred, as though some great maw had taken a bite of the city's wall. The hole led directly to the dome of the city, allowing the atmosphere of Venus to freely flow in and out. As we passed through, the view was lost again, the ground and walls far beyond the reach of our lights, though not for long, as the shuttle soon began to descend towards the ground. As the ground approached, we could see a long, curved wall separating the landing area from whatever lay beyond. The ground was grey in colour, but appeared to be covered in drag marks and scars of all kinds, though we could see only a small patch below the shuttle as it settled into the ground without a sound. Lola leapt from her seat and to the storage compartments, where 2 suits were waiting. She began to don hers immediately, soon followed by Hayden. As they got prepared, I looked out of the window at the smoky view beyond. In the gloom, there was a moving shape, approaching the shuttle, likely an escort. Once they were prepared for our egress, we moved to the ramp and it began to open, allowing the atmosphere beyond to flood into the shuttle, causing me to reel. The first thing to hit me was the noise, a deafening cacophony of scraping and wrenching metal, machinery in action, and a strange, unrecognizable howl. The smell hit next, an overpowering scent of melting plastics and noxious chemical fumes, all mixed in with the smell of smoke. The combination of ash and stench had already turned my soft blue clothing and tanned Mediterranean skin a dirty grey. Hayden moved to my side and offered some support, which I gladly accepted, turning my hearing and sense of smell down to a minimum level. I was soon standing again and ready to step beyond the doors. Hayden and Lola were both in sealed suits, allowing them to ignore the odours and dulled their hearing, though I suspect both had turned their own hearing down somewhat. The once clean and bright interior of the shuttle was a darkening grey now. Even the interior lights were having difficulty maintaining visibility. Reflexively, I began to glow a golden light, Hayden and Lola activating their suit lights, the combination providing a sufficient ward against the dark.